A warm welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. And we've had many, many guests, international managers, legends of the clubs, legends of our club from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s and noughties. But today we're breaking new ground, thanks to the generosity of his time and to the club, of one of our current players, Richard Brindley. Richard, delighted you can join us on our podcast. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and it's a lovely view you've got there, isn't it? That looks to me, as a boy from Snenton, like some rather posh apartments in a colic area not too far from the racecourse, where Sven used to have the penthouse. Have you got the penthouse there or not?
Not quite. I couldn't quite negotiate that, but we're near enough. It's still a lovely view, and yeah, coming here in Nottingham and not being from Nottingham, this was kind of a good introduction for me when I first come here. So I love it here. It's really nice.
Okay, we're going to talk about your time at Notts, a little bit of time of your journey on your career. But we like to be a little bit lighthearted as well in amongst the more serious stuff. And I'm going to read you a quote, and I want you to try and work out who. So it's from a player talking about another player at Notts County. Okay, so the quote is, "I don't follow him on Instagram, but I bet it's just full of his model pictures. I mean, he is just so handsome, so good to look at." Who do you think this player is talking about, Richard?
I mean, the boys banter me about it quite a lot at the club, so I'm going to say it's myself.
Go on.
Is it Jim O'Brien?
Jim O'Brien, very good. When Lee Curtis did a piece before one of the playoff games, and
yeah, it had to be JOB.
Yeah, so he was giving you a bit of stick there. So where does this come from then? The model, well, we can see the model like looks, but you do have a little sideline, don't you, as well?
Yes, well, I had it for a short spell. It's unfortunately I can't do it as much now. With football is very much full on. But when I was closer back down south, I signed with a modelling agency. It was actually a weird situation because I was just walking in a supermarket in London, like I say, back down south, my home area, and someone chased me from behind when I left Sainsbury's Superstore, and I was thinking, "Are you about to try and rob me? What's this going? What's happening here?" And pulled me and said, "Oh, like, do you play? Are you an athlete?" And I said, "Yes." And I thought he knew me or recognised me, and he said, "Oh, brilliant." He said, "We're looking for people like you." He said, "I've got a modelling agency," and I kind of laughed at it at the time. And then, yeah, I got to know him, went for a coffee, and yeah, we got along really well. And he works for, well, he actually was the owner of a big sports modelling company that was up and coming. So all of a sudden, I'm working with the likes of Nike, Adidas, Sports Direct, JD, and I'm on London stores in central London and on all the pictures and billboards, and it was happening quite quickly. So before I knew it, like you say, I became a model. So yeah, it's quite a nice little experience on the side of football.
Yeah, we've dug out a few photos as best we can. Here's one of an iconic England kit that I can remember us wearing this the first time with Kevin Keegan, Trevor Brooking, which would have been about, I was a student in Sheffield, 19. It would have been the 82 World Cup. That was an iconic World Cup kit. Okay. Before you were born, but quite an iconic kit, that one.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Now, I've also looked on your modelling profile. So it says here, height. The lads, when the lads watch this, I'll make sure they do. They'll give you even more hammer now. Model profile. Height, 5'10½". That half an inch is important, isn't it? When you're in modelling, that half an inch is important. Yes. To emphasise,
I myself with that. just to confirm for everyone, the specifics there, the modelling agency, the guy that done my profile, he said, okay, well, normally a model is normally 6 foot or 6 foot plus. That's what they normally go for. But the facial features that you have and the body and the physique that you have, it works perfectly. So let's try and meet in the middle. So he said, I tell you what, you're not 6 foot, but you're just over 5. You're just over 5'10". So let's be specific. Let's say 5'10 and a half, because they'll kind of look at it and say, well, you're nearly 6 foot. So that's what we tried to edge towards to get more jobs, and it worked out. It worked out well.
Chest, the half inch is important again. 38 and a half.
Small details, eh?
Oh dear, I love this. Waist 32, shoe 8.5. Because you've got halves all over the place here, haven't you? But because most footballers, I've got size 11, which is why I was always a useless footballer. Because most footballers have small feet, don't they?
Yeah, it's true. It is true. Those that have size 11 feet don't. I mean, credit to Peter Crouch, but normally it doesn't work very well.
And then hair color dark brown, and we've even got eye color brown. So there we go, eh? Yeah, that's what it says on your model profile.
Brown, but yeah, he's gone all out with the profile, that's for sure.
Okay. Now then, also, is there something you're not telling us? Because I don't know whether this is going to be your last interview as a Notts County player or not, because there is a photo doing the rounds. It looks like an unveiling shot to me. I'll put it up here. Now that looks like you, and to me that looks like a Borussia Mönchengladbach, right? Bundesliga knowledge here. Photograph of you wearing a Bundesliga Borussia Mönchengladbach shirt. Are you off there, or are you going to tell us it's another modelling job?
I think it's best I just be honest. It's another modelling job. It's definitely. I'm not going to Germany, that's for sure. It's a little bit too far. My missus wouldn't be happy with that. No, it's another little job. I'm glad you've only pulled them up. There's a couple other shirts out there, I'm sure, that I've worn.
Thanks for taking that in good heart. Okay, you came to Notts. Established yourself firm fans' favourite. I think it's fair to say. Have you enjoyed your time here at Notts? Because looking through your career, listening to 2 other excellent podcasts that you've done, in which searing honesty from yourself, Life on Purpose with James Laughlin, and I forget the exact name, Athlete Culture Profile, I believe, with one of your colleagues from when you would have been in the Norwich Academy. You've had your fair share of challenges along the way in professional football, haven't you?
Yeah, I have indeed. It's been, I think many of us athletes have our own different journeys and different challenges. I've had a fair few of them.
What's it like being at Notts County? Because you have, from what I can see, you've gone from all 6 divisions, from Norwich in the Premier League through to Chelmsford, National League South. Along the way, you've been at places such as Colchester, Chesterfield, playoff final victory at Rotherham, Bromley. You tasted relegation, I believe, at Barnet, and now at Notts County. Put into context your time at Notts with the rest of your career so far.
I'd say, the start of my career, first and foremost, was, I was very, very fortunate in terms of where I started, and Norwich City Academy really created the player that I was. Although they were obviously their Premiership, Championship club, they, bouncing back and forth. They very much were up there with the Premiership clubs and the Premiership quality of players that they were bringing through. So I was fortunate to be at such a great club to develop me, and I developed from the age of 7, 8 at that club all the way to 19. So I had a really, really good development system there. And then, going from that stage, things didn't quite go as planned in terms of complications with things off the pitch. And, it happens a lot. And I think people don't realise how often it happens in terms of off the pitch, how things can, top and turn. And we obviously perform on the pitch, but there are also hurdles off the pitch, just like any other person in any other job. And I just simply experienced a lot of those things, you know, whether it would be personal situations, you know, agents causing causing issues at times with complications of agreements and contracts. Um, those are, you know, those are the things that I think I've spoken about in my previous interviews mostly. Obviously, there's a lot more hurdles that I faced. Um, you know, I've always kind of kept my head down and worked hard, and you know, it's been a difficult journey, but at the end of the day, for me, I've always, you know, I've come from nothing, came from absolutely nothing, and you know, I come from a poor background, and you know, I've openly spoken about that, and you know, it's something that it's nothing unordinary. You know, what I've done and what I've achieved, I'm extremely proud of. It has been hard, obviously, when you work exceptionally hard and some things unethically don't go your way. It is difficult, and the drop down for me was very, very hard to take. If I wasn't good enough and if I didn't work hard enough, I would have said, fair enough, I hold my hands up and you know, I move forwards. But the hardest thing, given in such a short career, in terms of any careers, football is a very, very short career compared to most. Um, the effect that it had was obviously, you know, the importance of things not going away or going away is very, like, the small details make a massive difference in your career, and that's all that I experienced. The impacts were a lot harder, um, and you know, the come down was a lot faster for me with the decisions that didn't go my way. Having said that, now that I'm at Notts County, you know, I think I openly spoke about it when I first joined the club. I wasn't comfortable with stepping down into the National League, and I'd done it for one season with Bromley. The plan, I think I had a lot of League One clubs looking at me, but financially it wasn't right. They were, you know, they were offering me contracts that I physically couldn't afford to live on, couldn't afford to even pay my bills, so to speak. And that's okay when you're, you know, when you're a young boy coming through the system. And now the footballing system has changed dramatically in terms of League One and League Two. That is more so a case for the under 23, so to speak, coming through the system. So for someone at my age, when I took the dip, I had to make a massive decision on where I wanted to go with my career and what I want to do. And for me, I wanted to be at a club that wanted to win trophies. You know, they're a big club. They want to get promotion. They want to have the best team possible. They care about the club, the community. I just wanted to be at a club with that type of history and that type of aura. And when Notts County approached me, like I say, it was a hard decision because I didn't want to make that step down permanently, so to speak. But looking at it, I think it's the best decision that I've made in my career. And coming into this club, it's actually been an absolute blessing because I'm very, very happy where I am, location-wise, people-wise, in terms of, you know, the manager, the fans, the players. It's a fantastic club. So these things are very, very important to me. It's not all about the money at the end of the day. So although I'm not playing and people say you should be playing at League One, when, you know, people are questioning it a lot, and I still get it. I've had it for several years, and it burns me to hear that because I'm like, I know I don't really want to talk about it. I know, tell me something. You keep telling, I know this, you know, but it is what it is, and it's almost a case of, okay, well, I'm happy because, like I say, I've got the most important things to me in my football career in terms of being at a big club with a good community, tremendous fans. You know, the fan base is unbelievable. The atmosphere when the fans are in the stadiums, obviously the past year or 2 years with COVID, it's been difficult, but it's irreplaceable. And feelings like that, I want to look back at my career and, you know, feel like I've played a part of something that is historical. And you can't take that away from anyone. And not many players get promotion. I've been fortunate to have that and promoted to the Championship. So to be able to do that now with Notts County, when I look at other clubs and clubs that have been interested in me and whatnot over the past couple of years in League One and League Two, it hasn't compared to the opportunity and how I feel about this club. So that's kind of where we're at now, and that's kind of, you know, this the start to the finish of today.
It's a very perceptive answer. I always think, because I've been fortunate to work in professional football most of my career at Leicester City, West Brom, other places, and in that bubble, Notts County has always been my passion as a young boy. My dad, my granddad, my great granddad, all from Snenton, just up the road from you. We're all regulars at Meadow Lane, and I think one of the huge challenges the club and its players, I think, face every match day at the minute is that there will be people of a certain age, my generation, 35 onwards, who will remember the Neil Warnock when he first cut his managerial teeth at Notts. Notts were playing in the top flight of English football. Mm-hmm. By and large, then it was an antiquated old ground. So you kind of had a terrible old ground, but you had a group of players that were massively overperforming to the size of the club to be playing and beating Manchester United, Liverpool, Aston Villa, them over the road, all of that sort of thing. Now you have a fantastic stadium, but the club is in a position where its fan base is crying out to be back in the Football League. As a professional, as a player, is that something that doesn't enter your head because you play each game as it is? You don't play the emotion of things, but clearly there is an added pressure and an expectancy at Notts County compared to when you are playing just about every other team.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It's very different when you have that magnitude of, you know, the I wouldn't say expectancy, but I would say, you know, the club deserves to be playing at a higher level. The club deserves that. When you look at it collectively compared to other clubs in League One and League Two, so to speak, Notts County deserve to be up amongst them. So it's quite understandable. You know, there's no question why, as a fan base, that is very much so the case. And to be at a club like Notts County, I do think you have to be a certain type of player and character. And, you know, the emotional side, quite naturally, you take that in your stride, and that's almost a part of it, because we're all fully aware on that football pitch how important every single game is and how important it is to achieve promotion for this club. So, you know, for me personally, you know, I think I've expressed it before. It's a priority for me. It's very, very important for me, and it's something that I want to be a part of. So, yeah, like I say, it's understandable, and as a club, as players, you know, it's important that you have players that are aware of that and how important it is to play at your absolute best. Because in the League One and League Two, I'm sure there's some clubs, and you know, I mean, no disrespect to those clubs, but I'm pretty certain that the fan base, the community, the love that people have for this club specifically, other clubs don't compare to that for me.
I don't want to dwell on it, but I would be genuinely interested in your thoughts, because you've signed for Notts, first season, finishing like a train. COVID yes, it was COVID coming along. I lose track of things. Beat Barnet in the playoff. Off to Wembley. And despite Harrogate's level of playing performance throughout the season, they've done very, very well. To all neutrals, really, you see that the Notts County against Harrogate at Wembley. And most people would think Notts County are going to bounce back. Reading as much into it, what we've just been talking about, size of the club, supporter base, and all the rest of it. We actually had on this show a few months ago Paul Belshaw, the Harrogate goalkeeper, who is a Nottingham lad, born and bred, James Belshall, sorry. And he's a Notts County fan. He used to be in the academy. Notts, his dad is, his brother is huge Notts County fans. And he said it was quite difficult for him to play the game. And he made a small aside about he was very relieved to see Notts not playing in black and white because we played in green, I think. And he said it would have affected him a little bit watching his boyhood club coming at him in black and white stripes because they were in green. That's a side bit. What was that day like for you guys? And have you ever just thought back and thought, what did we do wrong? What went wrong? Why didn't we fire? Why didn't we, achieve what you had set out to achieve exactly on schedule, on a personal level?
When I look back at that game, I've looked back at it many a times, and I'll watch my games back and try and digest the positives and negatives. And when I look back at that game, for me, the first and foremost, the biggest difference between the two teams that day was the small details in terms of battling for the ball, the pace, the intensity, the start of the game. They started extremely well in terms of the intensity. They weren't necessarily trying to be pretty or tidy or anything. It was literally one simple ball in behind every single time they got it, and their strikers just run their absolute nuts off to chase down anything and everything for the first 15 minutes, and they made it really, really difficult for us. And I think, that early shock is always difficult, and to try and get that first upper hand is always the key. And that's something that they done the whole season. That's something that they worked on, and we spoke about it tactically before the game. We practiced in training. We were fully aware that all of their matches that they've played and where they're most effective is the first half, but more importantly, the first 20 minutes. They are exceptional for the first 20 minutes. And then even in the first half, they tend to have a fairly strong half. And then the second half, they're a completely different team. And they're not, in terms of the intensity, the quality of their football, etc., is nowhere near compared to their first half. So we were fully aware of that, but we didn't do it well enough to simply inhibit their first 15, 20 minutes. And that was the biggest issue for us. So, like I say, it's the small details, because when you look at the second half, we had a few good chances as well in the second half. Had we had taken them chances, a different ball game, and I'm confident. I played in many of those games in the past. And funnily enough, when I played in my promotion to the champ for Rotherham, we were down in the first half. And I've played that type of game before, against better teams. And I mean, no disrespect to Harrogate, they weren't trying to play good football. They just were trying to be physical and kick the ball in behind. And, they caused us an issue with that. When I played in games like that before, the second half, quite naturally, the team wears out, and quite naturally the team gets comfortable. And had we had taken the chances, I'm pretty confident that we would have done what we needed to do. But you shouldn't have to give yourself that type of ask first and foremost. So it's the experience of doing, if anything, the whole game. When you look at the 90 minutes against a team like that base themselves off the first 20 minutes / first half, the priority is, okay, well, we need to be at it for our first 20 minutes more than we need to be at it in our last 80, because we know full well we've got more than them at this point. But do we have more than them at this point? And obviously that showed. And credit due to them. They earned it. They worked really hard, and they got the win that they deserved. And I don't like to lose. I was very, very, really hard for me to take, because I felt like we could have performed better. We could have performed way, way better. But they done what they set out to do. And, that was the first 15, 20 minutes to try and get an early goal, and the first half to try and kill it. And, they've pretty much done that and achieved that.
How difficult, because when you lose in a playoff, particularly in a final, it's very difficult to come out all guns blazing the following season, because you must have to think what might have been. And over the last 2 seasons, if you look at Sutton, came up from midway to bottom half to win it last year. Hartlepool didn't have a great season last year. Torquay were bottom half and dominated the division this season. If you look over the last 2 seasons, Notts really have been the most consistent team over the past 2 seasons, but it's not necessarily aggregating ordinarily 92 games, but obviously COVID comes into it, aggregating 80 games or whatever it is, probably the best. But it's about, in this league, which is very difficult, numerically very difficult to get promoted, isn't it? Only 1 automatic, 1 through the playoffs.
It's by far, I've not played in the Premier League. I've trained with players in the Premier League for a number of years. I played in the Championship. I played in League One. I played in League Two. And I think I have a place to say that this league is possibly more difficult than people realise. And it's one of the most difficult leagues that I've ever had to play in, not because of the ability, not because of any of that. It's because of, like you say, one team goes up automatic, but also you've got players at this level. There's some football clubs that are part-time football clubs. Some of these players, at this level, financially, it's very difficult for them. And these type of games, I mean, every single type of game, whether you're playing in a Premiership, Championship, it doesn't matter. You should see it that way. You should have the mentality of, it's almost life or death. You have to win. It's a must. But for these boys at this level, it is very much the case of having a job and not having a job next year. And we're seeing that with COVID dramatically, and that's shown perhaps an example of how important it is and how competitive it is at this level for the opportunity to get promoted, the opportunity to even stay in this league, because going further down or whatever it may be, or not performing well enough in this league and someone replaces you as a player could end your career. I know a lot of players that have been playing in this league last year that are not playing now. So this league is very, very different than the other leagues because of not only the ability, like I say, but what's at stake for football clubs, players, fans, you name it. It's massive. And the way that the football can be played at this level is perhaps, shall we say, it's not all about football. It's not all about the technical ability. Things like that, it's great to have and it's important to have, but it doesn't necessarily win you the league. And you look at Sutton this year, and I know lads that are there that will admit they're not the best footballers in the world, but they'll work their absolute nuts off just to get that chance. And it's just having that mentality, and it's just being able to install that mentality, and being able to do the right things at the right times. We've been unfortunate because you look at the Harrogate game, like you say, I wouldn't necessarily say they're a better team than us, not a chance, but the small differences in the way they played in terms of the time that they would kind of play percentage football and things like that, I don't necessarily agree on. For me, football, I like to play football in an attractive way, but there are times where things like that can make the difference between winning and losing. And I seem to be seeing that a lot in this league, where teams are winning games, getting promotions, doing that at times. So it's just trying to find the balance of knowing when and how, and having that physicality, that mentality and whatnot in the right places at the right time. So, like I say, there's lessons to be learned from the teams that have been promoted, because this league, like I say, it's not just ability that will get you there.
It was an interesting season for us, just gone. And again, I don't want to dwell too much in the past, but again, I would value your opinions on it. I'm guessing you were very close to Neil. Neil moved on at a surprising time to many.
Sure.
Ian came in, and clearly it was a baptism of fire. And then we finished very strongly, and we had another playoff campaign. From your perspective, what was going through your mind in that last 2 to 3 months of the campaign, from Neil leaving, Ian coming in, bit of a struggle, you came back from injury, and then firing into the playoffs?
I mean, that's football for you. That happens a lot, and the transition, obviously managers come and go, so no one expected it, of course, in terms of, for players and fans. I'm sure they didn't expect it at all. However, the new gaffer that's come in, Ian's been unbelievable, and you have to respect the owners for what they've done. You have to respect the boldness, the decision making in that, and that is a part of football. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. However, with the transition that we've made, I think we've been really fortunate in terms of sometimes that transition can take longer than it needs to. And that transition quite naturally has a little bit of a downfall before it has the up, so to speak. And I think we've done exceptionally well as a football club with knowing that that transition quite naturally can have that. We've managed to rectify that quite quickly, and we've picked up perhaps quicker than we expected. And, the last 10 games, I think, massively showed that.
Yeah.
And you almost look at this season, and, like you say, obviously you have in the back of your mind, we didn't make it this season, how are we going to do it next season? And, these things are at the back of your head. For me personally, I'm extremely confident and positive about the transition that has been made. And I'm 100% confident that, we'll be going into the start of the season on a positive note. We're not going to, dwell on the transition. We're not going to dwell on losing in the playoffs, because it doesn't, you don't gain anything from that. The most important thing is that you focus on how you can move forwards. And that's what we've done. And like I say, the last 10 games, I think, really showed that as a football club, as the players. It's so good to have the fans back for a short spell in one of the games. But, having the fans back for a longer spell next year, I think you could see that, yeah, I'm confident we'll be okay. I'm confident we'll be very, very much okay.
If we look back at those 2 playoff games, Chesterfield with the crowd back in, that was a game, as I said, I'm from the Jurassic era, but for our younger fans, the Chesterfield game had just about everything for drama, entertainment, spectacle, theatre. Because football's not just a game; it is a spectacle, isn't it? It's Rome, the Colosseum, gladiators, and all of that sort of thing in the modern world. That's what it is. And that Chesterfield game had what was it like to play it?
Unbelievable. I mean, I think I predicted going into that game it was going to feel a little bit unusual, given that we hadn't had that for such a long time. And I think we were all aware of that. But there's just some things in life that no matter how well you prepare for it, it just never, ever, you can never be prepared for that. And that, in a positive light, was, one of the best feelings to have the fans back. And for me, what made me really happy about that game and that day was, it just shows that, given everything we've experienced over this whole pandemic, and that you look at the struggles and people losing their jobs, or people having to work from home for a long time, deducted pay, mental health, people losing loved ones through this. You look at all of these things outside of football that is separate to football. But then when we step on that football pitch and an event happens, and I'm sure people, the things that I've just listed are the negatives that we've experienced in the pandemic. I'm sure there were lots of fans that could relate to some of the things on that list. And it made me happy knowing that some items on that list, there would be fans in that stadium where it's made their day, or it's that whole experience, everything they've gone through, they've been given, a real positive, a real good feeling, a real good purpose. And for a fan base, as a football player, it's different to a fan. And I think it's really important as a football player to understand what a football fan really is. And I'm passionate about football. I love football, but I love football from a different position to a fan. It's a different place. It's different headspace. And I understand that now. And I understand I think I understand the feeling that a fan feels better today, the older and wiser I'm getting. And, I truly felt that looking at the fans in that game, the feeling, the crowd, the noise, the atmosphere, the aura, I could feel how much of an impact we made on that day as a football club. And, those are the type of days, those are the type of football games that you want to play in. And, like I say, I'm extremely excited now for next season, and having the fans back for those type of reasons really make me playing in this industry, a proud person to be a part of.
Let's just get it out of the way and we'll move on. Torquay. So playoff heartbreak at Wembley. You're going down to Torquay. How did the ultimate disappointment of losing in extra time at Torquay compare, or how did it feel compared to the previous year?
I think when you consider, like we just discussed, the transition that we had at a stage, like I said before, the transition quite naturally can have a slight dip, and we didn't get the performances that we perhaps needed for the plan that we set out at the start of the season with automatic or playoffs. With that transition, it almost felt like, I'm sure for the fans and as a football club, we kind of, that goal was creeping away from us. But when you look at that transition and how quickly, like I say, how quickly we got to where we needed to get to pick things back up, the last losing to Torquay, I don't think was the same as losing to Harrogate, and it's been a really, really tough year for us all. But football-wise, I think this is the first time. Normally, when we have a pandemic, so to speak, or worldwide issues, it doesn't necessarily damage football. It doesn't hurt football in this type of way. And to see football be damaged in this type of way is this may never happen again in the football career. Where it probably won't ever happen again in my football career. But when you take all of these things into consideration, and I think it's really fair to do so, we done exceptionally well this year, and I can only talk on the behalf of my players on the pitch. The transition, the not having the fans, we had injuries at the wrong time. I think all of these things play a massive, massive factor. And you look at the Harrogate game, it wasn't anywhere near the circumstances. The roadblocks were a little bit different to this year. So, you know, I still feel like we deserved, we could have done more in a Harrogate game. I still look at that and just kind of beat myself up about that a little bit, because I know we didn't perform anywhere near as we possibly could on that day. And I look at the Torquay game and I think, you know, those last 10 games, that game, we were very, very unlucky at the start of the Torquay game. We had, you know, they had all of their fans there. It's a very, very unusual experience. You know, getting the, although the new managers come in and obviously get used to a new manager, it still can take a lot of time. And like I say, we've done exceptionally well to pick up the performances, and with new managers and new tactics and whatnot, intensity of training and all sorts, these little details can change with different personnels. And for players to adapt and get used to, you know, and kind of become in sync with perhaps different players playing on the pitch to what was playing 6 months ago. These little things play a massive, massive factor. And you look at Torquay's side, you look at Harrogate's side, a lot of them players, and that's why I look at Harrogate differently, is that a lot of our players that were playing week in, week out, or injury wise, you know, we had Jake Reeves, who was practically playing with one leg. You know, he took so many injections to get through the game.
Yeah.
It helped, but still not 100%. So the Torquay game, we had so many roadblocks that we, you know, we battled through them last 10 games as a team, as a club. And you know, that's why I'm feeling really positive about the Torquay situation opposed to the Harrogate, because the roadblocks, like I say, just very, very different. And you know, I think personally, we have to reflect on those key elements of those situations versus Harrogate and versus Torquay, and you know, it's at the back of our mind, and we have to just make sure that we convert it from a negative into a positive. That's the most important thing.
At the time of doing this interview, we are in the first full week of pre-season training. And obviously, Mr. Doyle, who's normally leading from the front, we're told, both on the training ground and on the pitch, as assistant, is he still doing all the training, or is he taking a bit more of not a backseat role, but you understand the point I'm making?
Yeah, no, he's still involved in training. He still does his fair bit. He's still at the top running, and he's still at the top. It's remarkable, you know. Everyone knows. Listen, he's had an unbelievable career, and like I say, the fact that he's doing pre-season with us this year and he's still at the top. Do you know what? One thing I will say is, you might look at it and say, for some people, you know, if you're running and doing fitness wise, Michael Doyle at 40 years of age shouldn't be ahead of you. It's not an excuse if you're a 21-year-old lad or whatever it may be. But this guy is a totally different machine. Like he is on a totally different player that I've played with in my career. You know. So for me, it's great to have him taking the assistant role. I think he's a perfect character for the role, and the experience he has is exponential. So, you know, to have him kind of on the pitch here and then in the assistant manager role, I think it's been really good for us in the last 10 games. And yeah, he's still running. There's no doubt about that. But obviously, I know he will want to be moving into that transition a little bit more. But it's good to have him with his football boots on, kicking the ball around with us still. I still enjoy having him there.
What can we expect this season? Because when you look, you know, Hollywood takeover, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney at Wrexham, Les Reed's gone in there, Phil Parkinson, Stockport have clearly spending money. They brought in Paddy Madden at the end of last season. What sort of season do you expect this year? What can we expect? I know it's an unfair question, but how are you viewing this right now?
Excitement, entertainment, intensity, desire. These are the most important things in football as a player to give. First, that's the first starting point that you have to give. And obviously, like I've said before, this league is very, very difficult. I want us to get automatic. That's what we all want, of course. However, like you just mentioned, you look at these other clubs that are investing, they shouldn't be underestimated. And you look at, I don't think anyone expected Sutton to go up. I don't think that was a prediction that everyone had before the season started. So it's really important that we go into this season focusing on ourselves and knowing what we want to do and what we need to give as players. And I trust and believe that, like I say, in terms of the excitement, the intensity, the desire, consistency, I think if we have these elements, we'll achieve promotion. But we've got to get our head down and go again. I know we've had a short break. Obviously, it's been difficult for all of us. And football, like I say, has been very, very unusual and difficult. With I think last year we had 10 days off. This year, a little bit better, maybe 3 to 4 weeks off. We've got to go again. There's a promotion that we want, and that's what we're going to set our eyes on, and hopefully we can achieve that.
Well said. Good use of adjectives at the start as well. I like that. If we may, let's just talk a little about the Euros have just finished, and both on the pitch and off the pitch, it has sparked a huge amount of debates from a footballing perspective and a societal perspective as well. What were your thoughts on the Euros? Are you a passionate England fan, or as a person engaged in football, you kind of see it a little bit more analytically than perhaps the groundswell of fans out there? What were your thoughts, England?
Yeah, I would say I look at it analytically. I find it hard not to, and to be honest, I try not to watch too much football this summer because I like to try and switch off as much as I possibly can. And also my missus likes me to switch off. So I tried to only watch the England games.
Okay.
And fortunately, we made it to the final. So had we have not made it to the final, I probably would have had to add whoever made it to the final to that list. But she was fine. We watched the England games, and I thought we'd done exceptionally well. I personally, if I'm being honest, I didn't think we, at the start of the tournament, looking at the teams, Belgium, Italy, Spain, Germany, I didn't think we'd make it to the final. I thought if we'd be lucky, we'll make it to the semis. However, then when the tournament started, the lineup, the fixtures that we had, and the routes that it came, I could see, it was going to happen. So, no, I think the England squad done exceptionally well for so many different reasons, but their performances, to go out and perform the way they did I would call it, in all of their games collectively, I would call it very professional performances, very strategical performances, and people might look at it and say, oh, we didn't score many goals, and 1-0 here, there, and we need to score more, and Harry Kane needs to do more, and totally get that. However, some people forget that, these teams are up against will look at Harry Kane and say, okay, well, we need to, their tactics going into the game would be, okay, well, we need 2 players to mark him, and we need to make sure he doesn't get anywhere near the ball. So when players like that are important to clubs, they find it harder, credit due to the likes of Ronaldo and Messi, because I'm sure they get it every week, but you find it harder to get that opportunity to score goals. So collectively as a team, I think other players stepped up to the plate. And you look at that squad now, and I think we've got an exciting squad for the World Cup.
Yeah, it's interesting, and this kind of leads us on to the next part, because I know Gareth, known him for a few years now, and what you said there about professional, strategic, absolutely. He sets his teams up in a certain way. And I remember was out at the Super Bowl probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and we were talking about England and being a successful tournament team. And it's not necessarily producing the best 90 minutes in the first game, the second game, or the group game. You just get through. You get through. And I think that's very much typified by the run we had in the World Cup and the run we've had here. And I don't get too involved in social media, but I did put out a tweet saying Gareth, most successful England manager since Sir Ralph Ramsey, 1966. And my basis for that is a semi-final and a final. I've grown up in many times when we're not even qualified for tournaments in the 90s. And then some people come back, oh, well, he's lucky because he's got these players and etc., etc., etc. But in the modern world, and this kind of links back to our National League campaigns, it's results, isn't it, these days? Because of the way the pressure cooker, the money in football, the expectation, you live and die by your results. And I think Oliver Holt in the Mail on Sunday said that basically there is a referendum on whether Gareth Southgate is a good England manager or not by the last England game. You can win 7 and lose the 8th, and people think you're useless. And conversely, you might lose 7 but play glorious football, and then they think, oh, it's all going to be fine for the future. Results.
I totally agree on that, and that's the harsh reality of this.
Brutal. Yeah. We then, you can argue we didn't lose to Italy. We drew. Yeah, and there was a penalty shootout. And you could quite equally say we drew with Colombia in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, whatever it was. Was it around before, because we beat Sweden, didn't we, in the quarters? We didn't go through on penalties. Some of the England fans' conduct wasn't great in gate crashing the stadium. I was only at the Denmark semi-final, not the final. And we then had some, quite disgraceful, but sadly, probably not entirely unexpected treatment of some of the England players on social media. And we had a little chat before we came on air. You're a professional footballer. Clearly, you're not on the level of a Marcus Rashford when it comes to scrutiny and etc. on social media. But as a professional sportsman who does engage on social media, what's your thought? What's your take on the current situation, and what needs to happen?
I mean, it's been going on for several years now. This issue that we're currently, shall we say, more aware of today. It's been going on for a very, very long time. It's the biggest question for me in terms of simply solving this for the best interest of everyone, I think, is those that are in powerful positions, are they doing enough? Do they care enough? And social media, in terms of, at the end of the day, social media platforms are businesses that make a lot of money. We ask the question there in terms of, are they doing enough to support those people that play a part in their revenue? Are they doing enough to protect them, their communities? Do they care enough about the people on their platform that make them money? And I don't think we're seeing enough of that. So unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And we can sit here and talk about, okay, well, this and that should happen, and this is how it should happen, and the harsh reality in life at this moment of time is, unless someone, you know, experiences it directly, or say in terms of the verbal abuse, the racial abuse, unless their partner, their brother, sister, best friend, manager that they get along with really well, unless they know someone or it's them directly, don't take the time to really relate and understand it. And that's the biggest issue with a lot of people at this moment of time, which I think those people that are in them powerful positions are saying a lot of things in terms of, okay, well, you know, the going down on one knee, you know, political people questioning that, a lot of people questioning that and causing and saying that's, you know, a political gesture and causing an issue. And you know, I think there's a lot of statements that come out from people that don't take the time to really put themselves in that position. So I just hope that these people in these powerful positions can just take the time to really figure out and realize that this is not helping anyone. This current situation that we're having on social media, the abuse that people are getting, isn't helping their businesses. You might be making money, but as a person, you know, the dignity, the pride, it's not what you want to reflect on. For me personally, as a business owner or being in politics, I wouldn't want to be remembered for not doing anything about it, because unfortunately now it's at a point where people are, the victims in these situations are now standing up and doing a lot more to be seen. And this is now almost causing a positive effect of now asking people to do more and do something, because now you're in, now the we now you're in a position where, okay, well, now you need to do something about it because you cannot hide from this. It's now being asked from the likes of Gareth Southgate, from the big football players, from many people around the world that have a massive platform and have a massive voice. They're now asking Boris Johnson and whatnot, can you do more? Because you can do more. So I think we're now getting to a point where we're starting to see that. But it's just a shame that it's taking so long to even get to this point that we're trying to figure out now what to do. You know, like I say, it's been happening for many years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm typically blunt and far too simplistic in some of these things, but you know, for me, the police investigate every single one of these, however much that investigation costs, and add a bit more, and that bill is sent to Daniel Ek at Twitter, and the various and Zuckerberg at Facebook. Yeah, and you try and get a prosecution for every single one of those comments. Doesn't matter how much it costs, because it will be underwritten by them. I suspect that won't happen for a variety of reasons, but I hope, to your point, there is some real serious investigations taking place and people actually prosecuted, you know, because that's what it needs, you know. And it often surprises, I don't know whether it's surprising or not, but you know, you have people in supposed responsible professional positions when some of these people are identified. I sincerely hope this becomes a tipping point. I mean, is this something that you have suffered with? You know, if you look back on the last 2 years at Notts, do you actually get any flack from Notts fans or from opposition fans, or?
No, I don't. I don't seem to get any. Maybe if I have a really bad performance, I might get one, but I haven't had a really, I
Good.
haven't had a shocker. So yeah, I'd like to think my performances have been fairly good. So it's normally when you have a really, really bad performance, or as we've seen, you miss a penalty, then all of a sudden you're an absolute, this, that, and the other, and you're seen as a failure, or someone that's really caused a dramatic problem to people's lives. It's a shame to see how I struggle to understand how Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho and Sacco, how that angers someone to feel the need of almost you really, try and understand it from the other point of view. And I always try and understand it from the other point of view. That person that's abusing Marcus Rashford, you're clearly very angry about the situation. And you must be angry to the point where you feel like he's taking something away from you. He's hurt you deeply. And I just struggle to see how that warrants, wishing death on someone's family or whatever it may be, the abuse that they put out. I just don't understand how that warrants that back, So it's a shame to see. But like I say, in terms of myself personally, I've been very fortunate, and I haven't received anything like that. Funnily enough, the last time I received abuse was at the start of my, shall we say, climb in professional football. When I left Norwich City, I went to Chesterfield at the age of 19 for 6 months, done exceptionally well, broke into the first team, played really, really well. And all of a sudden, Rotherham came in for me in League One. And Chesterfield were in League Two at the time. And I left Chesterfield for Rotherham. As we know, that's a derby club. So the rivalry is it's there. And I received a few racial comments on Twitter openly, not even private, not even in a direct private messages. It was openly, a reply to me, announcing that I'm leaving the club. Someone commented and fired a few racial comments. And I remember, I was furious about the situation. I spoke on Twitter, and I openly tweeted, it's appalling that I'm being spoken to in this type of way. A few weeks ago, I was, everyone liked me and thought so highly of me, and because I'm doing what I feel is best for me, and I cannot tell you what's best for you in your position. I'm doing what's best for me in my position, for my family, for my life and my career. You're abusing me for that. And I openly put it out, and the football club, Chesterfield, asked me to remove the comment. My agent asked me to remove the comment that I said, basically confronted them and said, that's not fair. You can't talk to me in that manner. And I was asked to remove it because they said it would cause more of an uproar. So that's how it's been for so many years. That has been the main complication with this type of subject. It's been where people then say, don't speak because you're going to cause more problems. Just stay quiet. And that's the whole problem that we've built over time. Just like anything in life, if we choose to brush things under the carpet that are problems, the chances are it will become a bigger problem, the inevitable that you are going to have to face again. And that's what we've done with this subject. So that's what I experienced, and fortunately I haven't experienced it at the level that Marcus Rashford has, because I can only imagine how he feels and how his family feels.
We can very easily edit this out. It would be remiss of me, I guess, in a way, not to ask the question, but equally we can just edit this straight out if you don't want to go there. Notts had a problem of their own with comments attributed to Maurice Ross that led to Maurice leaving the club. Did that have an effect on team morale, squad morale, or do you have any thoughts or views on that, or do we just steer completely clear of that?
No, I'm okay with commenting, and you know, the way I see it, like I've said before, this is these things happen, and this is happening a lot right now in this world, and I think it's good. I see what I look at with these type of dilemmas. I see the fact that we are doing something about it is, like I said to you, from my personal experience that I experienced when I was 19. Nearly 10 years ago now. To see that we're now putting a line through these type of situations is first and foremost a positive. And I have to give credit to. Sorry about that. They're doing a bit of rowing.
Oh, right.
But I have to give credit to the football club for doing something about it, because, like I say, when I was 19, another football club
Yeah.
decided to do differently. So that's like I say, it's something that's not unusual. It's something that's not something, it's not no surprise to anyone. It happens. There are people out there that behave in that manner. But the most important thing is how you deal with that situation. That, for me, is what I look at. So the football club dealt with the manner exceptionally well. As players, we dealt with the situation exceptionally well. We had an understanding. We spoke about the situation, and we sit down and we talk as the manager, players. We sit down and we talk about problems, and we talk about how we can move forwards as a team. And that's what we've done. So, that's, for me, that is exactly why I want to be at a football club like this, because situations like that do arise in life, in any workplace. And I'm sure over the previous years, I have no doubt it's happened in many other workplaces, and they've chosen perhaps to not do anything about it. Whereas us, as a football club, Notts County, we've done something about it, and we've dealt with it in a professional, positive manner. And then we've gone and performed. So I can't remember actually how soon it was to our next game, that when it all came out. But we got on a training pitch, and we got our head down, and we said, look, let's put the frustration or the situation, let's convert it into a positive, because leaving a negative, or, like I say, brushing things under the carpet, which for me is still a negative, isn't a way of solving anything. The best way you can solve something is simply removing the problem, solving that, putting a line through it, and then moving forwards, and then showing a positive reaction to whatever situation you experience in life. And that's just a life lesson that I've learned as a whole. So that's where it's at.
I mean, I think, and to kind of finish this discussion, I think one of the biggest drivers of the abuse on social media is that cloak of anonymity, isn't it? People, when they are anonymous, are very brave. Yeah. When they have to put their own head above the parapet. Yeah. And it's very easy to fire something off about someone who's out there in space.
Yeah.
But the moment they have to face up to it, it's amazing the difference. It's amazing. And I can't help but think the genie has come out the bottle, especially with Twitter, that everybody should be verified. Everybody should, in the way that celebrities with the blue ticks, everybody should be verified. And when we had one of our previous shows, someone said that in China, they have a system whereby there's some form of national identification number, and you have to do that to be registered to a social media account. There will be another quite powerful lobby in the Western world that will say, this is Big Brother watching us, but that's Big Brother watching you. But we're currently at a situation where whole groups of people are being racially abused, and are just subject to rude, crass and ignorant, unsubstantiated comments.
I totally agree on that. And I think they're doing a petition for that at this moment of time in the UK. So I might have to put that on my Twitter. But if people look for that, that would be brilliant, because the petition, if there is one, to put that forwards and make that a possibility here in the UK, I think can make a real positive impact. And for those that worry, like we say, obviously everyone's valid to their own we're all valid to our own opinion, given that it's respectful, and we see and consider both sides of the coin. And I'm sure, like you say, other people will have their own opinion in terms of, well, what if Big Brother's watching us, so to speak? You have to ask yourself, if, again, you put yourself in that other person's shoes, if that was your daughter, brother, partner, and you ask yourself that one question in terms of, okay, I have the situation of, I worry about Big Brother, or I worry about my brother, my sister, my partner being racially abused. It's a no-brainer for me. I don't want to see people suffer in this world at all, and I don't want to see people suffer for trying to do something in life, for trying to be someone, for trying, this is something that even those that are not on the worldwide stage are getting racially abused or bullied in school. And I'm hearing, I get messages on Instagram from mothers where their kids are being bullied at school and whatnot, and on social media directly. And it's horrible to see and to know about. And I just hope that we can do more about this, because at the end of the day, I think it has to become a priority, because no one, and I mean no one, deserves, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you've done, no one deserves to be treated unfairly for trying to do the right thing, or for trying to just be you, be positive, or live your life, or perform, do your job. No one deserves to receive that as a replacement in terms of that. So, I hope that we can see collectively in this country, we can do more to create a more positive place on social media, because it is such a powerful source that you can use it for so many wonderful things. And I fear that it's going to go the completely other way if we don't do something about it.
Well said. Very good. I want to finish on an upbeat message.
Yeah.
You can see the shirts behind me. So that last year, the Magpie Circle sponsorships were with Lewis Knight and Mark Ellis. So obviously, Mark has moved on. So we moved quickly, and so we managed to snap you up. So we're very pleased. Clearly, the challenge is, are you going to get as many goals as Mr. Ellis? Because every other week you'd have the little Magpie Circle logo flashing up on social media. Another goal, Mark Ellis. Now, you've only got one. It was a perler, to be fair, but we're looking for a few more from you this year.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, you will get more. I will make it my sole mission to get more goals for this football club this year. And obviously, if I'm playing, depends what position I'm playing in. If I'm playing in the right centre back role, I do get the opportunity to get in the box for corners, and I've got quite a good leap on me. So I'd like to think I could be a bit of a danger in the box.
I think it's no secret, is it? And we've not mentioned too much about Ian, but I think Ian's philosophy, as presented to us through the media and through the club social media channels, I think one of his first phrases was for players to be more risk averse. Wants to see positivity going forward. So, we will be hoping to see more goals across the park this season. And some people liken it to sort of the brakes being taken off. But I think certainly Ian wants a very positive, attacking brand of football, and certainly at home going for it. Yeah.
100%. That's what we're looking to do. That's what we're working exceptionally hard on. So, we're the training from the back end of last season coming into this pre-season, we're going to be working exceptionally hard to create that, shall we say, habit in terms of just, being brave, being positive, taking risks. And like I say, the last 10 games, you could really, really see us do a lot more of that. And I think if we can do that for a whole season, we stand a very, very good chance.
On that very positive note, Richard Brindley, thank you very much indeed. The first current player to have on our show. It's been a pleasure. Fantastic listening to you. Learned a lot. I'm sure all our listeners out there echo my sentiments of saying thank you very much for your time. We've gone on plenty. We've done about an hour and 20, so we've nearly done a full 90 here. Thank you very much indeed. We'll let you get your tea sorted and replenish for training in the morning. But thank you very much again for your time.
No, pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.